This one might be not carbonated at all, or it might be a gusher. We're about to find out. We get so many questions about how to make sweet, sparkling session meads. So today we're going to try to answer all those questions by showing you 3 different ways that you can make sparkling session meads. No kegging equipment required. You're going to carbonate in the bottle. While kegging is definitely the widely preferred way of making a sparkling mead, you can do it in the bottle too. It just requires a little bit of a change in your process. And so today we're going to show you 3 different ways to make sparkling session meads. We're going to make one that's just dry and sparkling. That means no sweetness. Super simple. We're also going to make one that is sweet and sparkling using priming sugar and a non-fermentable natural sweetener called erythritol. Erythritol tastes a lot like sugar, and so it's a good option for lightly sweetened meads. And so you're going to see that process where we put both sugar and erythritol into the bottle, and then bottle the mead on top of both of those. The yeast can eat the sugar, but they can't eat the erythritol, so it'll still remain sweet while being carbonated. And the last way we're going to show you is often a very dangerous way of doing this. We are going to both sweeten and condition with honey, which means we have to stop the secondary fermentation in the bottle before the pressure becomes so much that the bottle explodes. If this sounds dangerous, it is. A lot of folks online will tell you, nah, it's perfectly fine. But I'm going to show you just how much pressure can build up inside those bottles during the pasteurization process. It's a lot. You want to make sure you're using good quality bottles for that. So in that section, we're going to put 2 tablespoons of honey into the bottle. The yeast will eat some of that honey, and then we will pasteurize to stop the yeast from fermenting further so that the drink remains sweet. We'll be using an empty plastic soda bottle as our test bottle for that process. So once that soda bottle is pressurized and we know it's carbonated, that gives us an inkling of when it's time to pasteurize the bottles. And I know I just threw a ton of information at you about what you're about to see, but hopefully that provides a little context as we go into this how-to section. So, do you want a dry sparkling mead or a lightly sweet sparkling mead, or do you want a sparkling mead that takes a little bit of extra effort but has the benefit of being back sweetened with honey? It's your choice, and here's how each process is done. This process starts with a really simple hydromel recipe, and we'll put that recipe down in the description of this video. So we mixed it up, we let it ferment, and once it had started to drop clear, it was time to get it into bottles and carbonate. Our first bottle is going to be dry, which means not sweet, and sparkling. So we just need 1 teaspoon of priming sugar, that's either dextrose or table sugar, and that's 1 teaspoon per 12-ounce bottle. Our second bottle is going to be primed in exactly the same way, 1 teaspoon of sugar in a 12-ounce bottle, but we're also putting in 2 tablespoons of erythritol, which is a non-fermentable natural sweetener. The third bottle, as well as our plastic test bottle, are going to be sweetened and primed with a total of 2 tablespoons of honey for each bottle. And now that plastic bottle is a 16-ounce bottle, not a 12-ounce bottle, so we're going to aim for around 12 ounces in that bottle when we get it bottled up. With our priming sugar and our sweeteners in the bottles, it's time to get it racked over and bottled. And then that test bottle we're going to squeeze all the air out of. And then we'll just cap the other bottles with crown caps. After a couple weeks, it's time to pasteurize the honey sweetened bottle. And we know that because our test bottle is super firm. All the air we squeezed out has been replaced with carbon dioxide, and you cannot squeeze the bottle at all. There is no give. So we need to place our glass bottle in the Dutch oven, and for demonstration purposes, we'll put our test bottle in 2. We're also putting in 1 open bottle. The open bottle is going to be filled with cold water, and then we'll pour cold water into our Dutch oven. Next, we put in our sous vide immersion circulator, and that target temperature is 145 degrees Fahrenheit or 63 degrees Celsius. And we're going to hold that temperature for 20 minutes. So over the next 10 to 15 minutes, the temperature of the water bath will come up, and then once it does, we'll start to check the temperature inside that open bottle. If the temperature in the open bottle becomes 145 Fahrenheit, then we know we have begun the pasteurization process. And so we're going to keep an eye on that, make sure the temperature doesn't go too low or too high. And once 20 minutes have passed, we will turn off our circulator and allow everything to come down to room temperature before we remove the bottles from the water bath. And then a few weeks later, we can test all 3 bottles against each other to see how each one worked out. So here we are at about 2 months, and we have the 3 bottles. This one is dry, no back sweetening. This one, sweetened with erythritol and primed with priming sugar. This one, sweetened and primed with honey and pasteurized when our test bottle said it was time to pasteurize it. I have no idea what's going to happen with this bottle. This is a very unpredictable process, and I want to show you something. This is the test bottle. Normally you would just drink the test bottle, you wouldn't actually pasteurize it, but I wanted to show you what happens when you pasteurize your test bottle. The pressure builds up in the bottle and the air expands. Then with the heat, your bottle can expand also. And so you can see just how much pressure is inside this bottle. And presumably there's a similar amount of pressure inside this bottle. Now these are all chilled, so hopefully they hold their carbonation well, but this one might be not carbonated at all, or it might be perfectly carbonated, or it might be a gusher. We're about to find out. Dry, no back sweetening. Erythritol sweetened and primed with priming sugar. And the moment you've all been waiting for, back sweetened with honey and pasteurized. I'm not nervous, you're nervous. No gusher. All right, let's get these poured into glasses. With both of these bottles, we know exactly how much carbonation we're going to get because we used a pre-measured dosage of priming sugar. You will get the same carbonation every single time. As you can see, they're both incredibly sparkling. We didn't have any gushers, and this one should be dry. Dry, honey forward, crisp, nice acid balance. This one should be slightly sweet. Perfect. Tastes just like honey. Nice, delicate sweetness without overwhelming your palate. Let's take a look at this one. As you can already see, it's about half as carbonated as the other two, and that's because we waited for our test bottle to be firm to the touch. We gave it another day or two, and then we pasteurized everything. And so the issue is you never quite know how carbonated it's going to be in the bottle, but you're going to have a honey flavor and sweetness and a nice rich backbone in here that you're never going to get with a artificial or a naturally derived non-fermentable alternative sweetener like erythritol. Erythritol is natural, but it doesn't taste quite like honey. It tastes more adjacent to sugar. But you can see there's some nice bubbles on the glass. There's a steady stream coming up from the bottom. It's lightly carbonated. I would say just north of petulant, which is tiny, tiny, sparse bubbles. This is carbonated, but it's nowhere near the level of these two. But of course, let's give it a taste test. I gotta say, that drink's much more like a mead. It's a rich honey flavor. It's actually quite sweet as far as sweetening goes, but that sweetness and honey added after the intense fermentation, just a light fermentation in the bottle, really gives it a rich honey character in a way that you're just not going to be able to achieve with bottle conditioning with other methods. Overall, they're all nice. They all have their different merits. Personally, I do prefer a light sweetening with erythritol and a nice consistent amount of carbonation versus a lot of the guesswork that happens with pasteurization. But pasteurizing, when done properly and safely, can be an effective way of getting a sparkling mead with bottle conditioning and having a nice honey sweetness accompanying it. What are your ideas for how to make a sparkling session mead? Is there something that we haven't covered here? Maybe you've got a kegging system and you've got some unique ways of back sweetening and carbonating in the kegs. Let us know, drop a comment below. And of course, you don't want to miss any more of the upcoming content from us here at CraftaBrew, so make sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, that way you're always up to date with what's going on here at CraftaBrew. Until next time, my friends, I hope you've got good things brewing. I know I do.